Greetings, and welcome to Beatles Stuffology. We're two old friends sit around and talk BS, Beatles stuff, on a track-by-track basis pretty much for the sake of it. My name is JG McQuarrie, and I'm here with my co-host, Andrew Deacon. Say hi, Andrew.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing all right, thank you. Spring has finally sprung in sunny Glasgow. So there is some blue sky. It is warm. It is starting to really feel like winter is a thing of the past. So really, like perfect meteorological conditions for discussing a song like For No One. How are you doing?
Oh, okay. I mean, we are in the throes of spring here in sunny southern England as well. There is blossom, well, no, there's buds on the apple tree. There are tulips and daffodils and rosebuds in the garden, which is all perfectly pleasant. And this time next week, the good lady wife and I will be in Canada, where in various places that we're going to, it's currently about -8. Um, so that'll be good. Um, yeah,
Yeah, definitely not shock to the system then.
yeah, I know it's okay, but I'm looking forward to it because actually it will probably, when we get there at least, it will probably be colder than we've had it all winter, which is interesting. But there you
Okay.
go. And in fact, I had the joys of spring this morning combined with some media crises in that I'm driving over to Paul this morning. I could not get my phone to sync to the Bluetooth in my car, and there was a panic on. Fortunately, I had a few CDs hanging around that I could safely reach whilst driving. And the one that I decided to go for in the end was an album I love, Billy Bragg's "Don't Try This at Home."
Okay.
Which was lovely, and I haven't sung in the car for ages because I mostly tend to listen to podcasts these days. But I have to say, for the early 1990s, You Woke Up My Neighborhood is just about the perfect pop song.
That's such a glorious piece of music.
It is, and when I sing it, I don't sing the Billy Bragg line. I sing the bits that Michael Stipe is doing on the backing vocals in the chorus, and I like that in particular. Oh, by the way, meant to mention, have you been watching the new Steve Carell series, Rooster?
No, I can't say that I have, but I am aware that he's done the theme tune to it, if I'm not
He
mistaken.
has, yeah,
Is it
and
any good?
actually,
I haven't heard it yet.
it's fine. It's fine. It sounds like, better late period REM, but his voice sounds really rich and lovely on it. So it's worth a little listen. Lyrics seem, quite clever as well. So he's trying with that. The series is perfectly fine, but yeah, I was interested and also if you watch the first episode as well, you start to think that the producer is clearly obsessed with early 80s, slightly indie pop, occasionally electric British music. And I really like the fact that rather than using the Go-Go Girls, no, is it Go-Go Girls? No. Well, anyway, the Belinda Carlisle, Jane Wiedlin band, the version of Our Lips Are Sealed, they use the Fun Boy 3 version,
Ah,
which is
nice.
superior in so many ways. What were they called? The Belinda Carlisle band?
Was it the Go-Go's? I can't
The
remember.
Go, maybe it was the Go-Go's. I'm just adding girls on for really
Yeah.
poor reasons. Oh well. Fortunately, we're recording this after International Women's Day, so clearly that's rubbed off on me in so many ways. Anyway, we've got a song to discuss.
We do, yeah. We need to discuss For No One this week. So yeah, we move steadily through side two of Revolver. Quite the change of pace from our previous episode. Yeah. So I'm going to kick us off a little bit this time, which is to
Hmm.
say that it is a really good song. I really like For No One, which is quite the revelation. I think you will agree.
That'll get the listeners in.
Just get that in at the beginning, but I think it's also a pretty interesting song. So I'm very hopeful we're going to get a decent discussion out of this. But then I'm always hopeful for that. What do you think of it?
I also like it.
Good.
Oh, right. You want more than that.
I
You
think we
do you
should
want more than that?
probably expand on that just a little bit. Yeah,
Right. I'm going to get the yeah bit out of the way first. It's another blooming Jane Asher song.
it is.
It's like roll up, come on, all together now. Another Jane Asher song. It's like the 1960s equivalent of Heat magazine, isn't it? It's like play your gossip out in public, and in this case, it's another. oh God, it's not going to last. It's over. But at least he's doing it in a detached second person way. He's not writing, um, I I really like you, but you no longer like me kind of way. It's like this love should have lasted years. She doesn't really want you anymore. What are you going to do? So it does make it a little bit more in the vein of she loves you or you're gonna lose that girl. Yeah, yeah, you're gonna lose that girl. So it's that sense of projecting those emotions on to someone else. And that might be why, because it is seemingly writing about himself and his own experiences, that Mr. Lennon liked what Mr. McCartney had done here, because that's his stated raison d'etre. He likes to write about me, not these invented people. So clearly he must have realized that it was about McCartney rather than, say, for example, a few months down the line, lovely Rita.
Yes, I think there's a fair gulf between this and Lovely Rita. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the really interesting things about this song is that sort of sense of detachment. It is a very it clearly has its roots in a personal situation, whether it's directly autobiographical, whether it's just simply drawing on aspects of his relationship with Jane Asher or whatever. There's clearly something very personal going on here, but it's still a very sort of detached and rather distant song, and that's really really unusual in a Beatles song of this period. In fact, it's just unusual in a Beatles song, full stop. Like you mentioned, as often as not, it's "I love her, but she doesn't love me," or "Oh my God, we hate each other," or "This is fine, everything's tickety boo." But there's very rarely a song which has this sense of detachment to it, that slightly, I mean, I don't want to say clinical because that's not quite right, but that slight sense of isolation of two people going through the motions, perfectly reflected in the lyric, and there's always that sort of slight sense of movement about it, that slight sense of people just, yeah, going through the motions, like you move here, you move here. They're almost like sort of clockwork, but it's a very detached sort of movement. They're not avoiding each other. They're not throwing pots and pans at each other. They're just moving through this phase, and it's clear that this is a phase of the breakup. It's not the "we'll never see each other again" phase, but it's clearly past the point of the relationship being salvageable, and that's just really interesting. I love that sense of perspective. It's, and particularly from McCartney, that sense of distance is really unusual. We're used to him writing in a much more kind of emotionally engaged style, even when it's clearly not a biographical song. He still almost always has that sense of emotional engagement about what he's writing. And but here there's a real sense of distance, and I love that about this song.
So I find that this is a lyric where you can, another one of those where you can really go to town if you want to,
Mm.
and see what all the things that you want to see. So, for example, I can picture this if there was a video made for it in like a split screen of, on his life, her life, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you could imagine them as being completely separate, or you can imagine them being, still together but just going through the motions. Um, and I like, say, for example, in the first verse, the first three lines, it's about, your day breaks, your mind aches, you find she no longer needs you. Next three lines, we switch that you then turns into she. So, he is trying to put himself in the mind of two different people, which I think is a relatively fresh way of doing it, to sort of see there's that understanding. So then she wakes up, she makes up, she takes her time and doesn't feel she has to hurry. She no longer needs. So there's that sense of he's in agony, she's moved on, and that's really interesting. Even then, taking it down to that sense later on, that she says that long ago she knew someone, but now he's gone, she doesn't need him. And you I think the more obvious interpretation is that that's referring to the person that she is currently in the relationship with. So, I knew you, but you've changed, which I believe is something that Jane Asher did talk about at one stage, that, later on, there are lots of people coming around the house who she didn't really know. That Paul, when he was on, would taking some drugs, seemed like a completely different person. So, I think it's really interesting. Almost that cyclical, his mind aches, she's moved on, but she's moved on because he's changed too. Like I say, you can sort of go into this into lots of layers if you really really want to. But it's interesting because we are getting those, and there's no sense of she's wrong because of this. It's just matter of fact. She says her love is dead. You don't believe her. You think she needs you, but it's not a case of, oh my God, please come back to me. I'm so terrible without you. Please. It's not there. It's just a case of he feels this, she feels this, she used to feel this, now she feels this. And I think that's matched in the vocal as well. And I don't think Paul is putting in great swathes of emotion. It's almost like a kitchen sink drama that he's sort of just showing it as it is, so that you can then take a side if you want to. Not that I think there's any sides to take here.
No, I don't think there is. And I think that also in itself makes it a really interesting proposition. There isn't really a sense that either of the two protagonists in this song are right or are wrong. It's just a description of what we are. When you sort of talk about the way that McCartney sings it, it is a slightly affectless vocal performance. If you compare it to something like say Yesterday, for example, where you can clearly hear that he's putting a lot of emotion into the delivery of the song. But here again, it seems that there's that slight intentional distance in the way that it's delivered, and that allows both parties in the song to have that sense of that sense of distance, but also that sense of this being a very kind of non-judgmental song. There's no finger pointing, there's no blame. It's just a very clear description, a very clear-eyed description of what it is that's happening. And the lyric is really, really effective in that. Even when you've got little phrases like that, you mentioned like she wakes up, she makes up. That she makes up is an interesting one because it kind of has a double meaning as well. I presume it means as in she puts on her makeup, but
Yeah.
she makes up, that has an alternative meaning as well. It could be that there was an attempt to reach out. It could be, like bridge the gap. But it's obvious that's not the intention. And yet there's still a slight double meaning in a phrase like that. And that's a really clever little twist to put on it because it's not sticking the knife in, but again, it's just that little additional note of ambiguity as we observe this scene. And it does feel like you said, black kitchen sink drama. It does feel that this is a song that plays out in black and white. It feels like a 1950s or 1960s kitchen sink drama. It feels like something where you would never this isn't a song that would ever come into color, not in both in term literally in terms of if you were watching it as a kitchen sink drama, but also in terms of the emotional palette as well. There's no color in this relationship. Everything is seen in black and white, and that again, that sense is just so effective. Everything has been drained out of this relationship. The love has been drained out of it. The color has been drained out of it, and that's all we're left with. All we're left with is being able to be a passive observer to the passing of this relationship. It's so unusual for that kind of thing to be present in a McCartney song, and it's so perfectly poised. It's so perfectly judged. Cried for no one. There's not even tears anymore. We're past that point. It is really, really beautifully observed, even as we are kept at a very clear emotional distance from everything that's going on.
I'm not sure I agree with you about the tears, because it's no sign of love behind the tears cried for no one. So I think there are tears, but I just think it's not a case of I'm crying because of you or because I need you. They're just kind of tears of general sadness. So I reckon that's it. And then I think the point there is it's more an indication that there isn't that love there. It's just, God, I'm just a bit sad that this hasn't worked, or I now have to move on and do this, that, or the other.
Mm.
But sorry, I'm just slightly distracted. At this point, the cat has decided that she wants to get in on the conversation. So there you go, listener. If you heard those little cries there, she's been very disconcerted by my interpretation of McCartney's lyrics. And
If
there's a
anybody knows about emotional distance, it's cats.
well, oh, careful, careful. And it's a love that should have lasted years. And to that I say, well, maybe McCartney, it would have done if you'd have kept your pecker in your pants just a little bit more often.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that is kind of interesting because we know that that's part of why the relationship broke up
Yeah.
is his infidelities. Not only that, there was the drug use, there
No.
was the kind of, all the rest of it, but that's certainly part of it. And yet that is conspicuous by its absence in this song as well. And I wonder if that's because it isn't wholly autobiographical or whether he's just not quite prepared to face up to what he might have done in order to cause this. Again, a love that should have lasted years, okay, but we don't really get much sense of why it is that it didn't, because this is purely a descriptive song. It's descriptive of this phase of what is going on, but we don't really get those kind of background details. So yeah, it would be interesting to know if that's because he is intentionally avoiding, the responsibility for that himself, or simply is unaware. People can be oblivious to that. It might not simply have occurred to him, or is it because it's only semi-autobiographical and it's not quite as literal as that?
I do wonder if he takes a slightly different view to this than Lennon, particularly Lennon of the 70s. It's not a primal scream. I'm gonna put all my emotions down on a piece of paper and oh well, if they upset you, they upset you. I wonder if he takes a slightly more stylized, nuanced approach and appreciates the fact that there is this situation that he can then turn into something. And so I I doubt very much whether this is more than a representation, perhaps, of how he was feeling rather than, an actual situation. Um, but I think he's quite good at doing that. But I think he's even better at doing that because I think this is one of his more controlled and worked out lyrics. And I wonder if it was just a case of, oh, you no longer love me, oh, I no longer love you, whether or not he would have put all of that emotion in. Certainly remember Lennon was of the view that when he put the work into the lyrics, he could write them really, really well. And I think this is one of those examples. But I wonder how much you would invest in getting the wording right to make it representative about a relationship with a person you're still with, if it was completely autobiographical. So I wonder if it's perhaps representative rather than fully descriptive. Can you imagine what it must have been like? I'm sure we've talked about this before. Jane Asher listening to the latest Beatles recording and saying, "Oh, Paul, is there one about me on there? Paul, oh, not again. Come on, dial it down a bit, please. Make it a bit less obvious."
Yeah, that must have been all fun and games. But then, that's hardly something which is Imagine if you're Taylor Swift's boyfriend. I mean, it happens. It's a thing. That's the closest I'm going to get to a young person's reference in this
Wow,
episode, I promise.
that's quite impressive. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself. I mean, you mentioned cyclical before, and I think that is part of it as well. The lyric is cyclical, and the music kind of behind it is very cyclical as well. And it really does, and both I think the lyric and the music show signs of being like properly crafted. I'm always, again, I think I've mentioned this before as well. I'm always slightly skeptical about that thing Lennon said was, if you put the work in, he could be really good. Yeah, that's true of anyone. Like if you put the work in, you can be good, but you could write crap as well. Like that's the nature of things. You need to put a bit of effort in. So, but this obviously does have that done to it. The way that the lyric and the music sort of sync up, or the way that they kind of slot together to sort of go back to the sort of clockwork analogy, is incredibly clever. This is one of the first songs in a while where we've had a degree of complexity in terms of the chords which are being used. We've been very obviously we've been praising the songs which we've covered recently. We've praised the composition, we've praised lyrics, we've praised studio work, all the rest of it. But a lot of the music hasn't been necessarily that complex. And in a way that there is a kind of logic to that, because you can use, sort of relatively basic chord structure to sort of build, as the scaffolding, I suppose, to build a production around it. Certainly songs like She Says She Said have that, and that will obviously go on to be the case with something like Tomorrow Never Knows as well, even though that's only a single chord. But here we actually have something a little bit more sophisticated. The chords which are being used aren't just straightforward. And they're being sort of slotted together. They're being constructed in this very kind of cyclical manner, which matches the lyric. It's the motions that everybody's going to. There's no, I mean, I was just saying there's no chorus here. I suppose there is, but if you take the "and in her eyes you see nothing, no sign of love but tears," behind the tears is the chorus. But even then, it's not a sort of chorus in the traditional sense. Certainly, there's no middle eight, there's no instrumental break. It's a very restrained song in terms of its music. And again, that I said there's no instrumental break. Of course, there is. We'll talk about the horn solo later.
Yeah.
What I meant is there's no like guitar solo or something like that. It's a very restrained piece in that way. It's very kind of held back, and again, that's it's form and lyric perfectly in sync with each other. The music perfectly supports a lyric that just really very obviously has been crafted.
So it feels like the verse is more sparse than the chorus. And I can't work out if it's the mix, but I think a lot of it is down to the piano. So you have the descending line in the verse, which is, you know, it's loud, it's played quite boldly, but it's quite straightforward, but it works. Obviously, it makes it that kind of melancholic feel. But then in the chorus, it seems to almost kind of vibrate. It seems to sort of ring around two or three notes, but it's much more sprightly in the way that it's played as well. So as a result, the chorus feels a little bit more um, filled out, which is interesting. But I think this is the song that's driven by both the bass and the piano rather than anything else. They really do seem to punctuate the song in a way that, say, Ringo's fills do elsewhere in this period with the Beatles. So when we're leading from first chorus to verse, it always seems to be either a bass note or the piano that signals that change, which is a really interesting way of doing it. In relation to your point about the instrumental break, there is a pattern on Revolver, and I don't know if I've noticed it on any other Beatles album. And it starts with the backwards guitar on "I'm Only Sleeping," the band on, and the band begins to play on "Yellow Submarine," on "Good Day Sunshine" after the "Burns My Feet as They Touch the Ground," and then this. We get the instrumental breaks, but we get them instead of the second half of the verse,
Mm.
as though we've written the verse. First time round, we've got two lots of three. Second time round, we got one lot of three, and then we've got a little instrumental break. So it's not putting the instrumental break in the traditional place; it's using it instead of a lyric. I off the top of my head, I can't think of certainly another album where there's quite so many of these. So but it's more than just a coincidence. But what we also get in the third verse, so in the second verse here, we get, half the lyric and then the horn solo. But then in the third verse, we get half the verse. And then in the second half of the verse, we get both McCartney and the horn solo again. So it's really interesting the way that they've done that. And I suppose it's only since we've been listening to this album over and over and over again that I've cottoned onto that. This is probably something that musicologists have been talking about for years. But I am, what's the expression? I was this old when I discovered that for the first time.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's fair to say neither of us qualifies as musicologists, so we're good there. But yeah, no, you're entirely right, and it's a really interesting structure. I also can't think of another album which does that in quite the same way. But it does give a really interesting and different feel to the songs that we're covering, and structurally just makes it sound different from something like, say, Rubber Soul. It's a really interesting approach to take. And yeah, it's kind of fascinating. It's one of the things about this song is that once it doesn't seem like there's really all that much to it. Half the band aren't, well, I mean, half the band aren't
You're
on
right.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a very small, it's a very minimal song, but there is a huge amount that you can get out of it. And, I'm not going to talk too much about Ringo, except to say, like, he does really good supporting work in this. Like, everything that he needs to do is here. That's fine. But let's be honest. This is McCartney's song through and through, and having things like that clavichord as well, which lends it a slightly. I mean, I guess the word people use is a baroque feel to it, which I suppose it does, but it's not in any way like a baroque piece of music as such. It's clearly still a pop song first and foremost. But again, it's just getting back to that thing with Revolver where we have instrumentation being used that we just have never really come across before. Certainly not stuff which has been sort of brought to the fore. That descending piano line you were talking about before, that sort of counterpoint, is really beautiful, and it's really
Mm.
beautiful for its simplicity. If it was overplayed, or if it was a bit flashier, which sometimes McCartney can be guilty of, he can sometimes be a little bit he can over flourish things a little bit, but here it's a really simple, beautiful little descending piano line, and it is precisely what the song needs. And then, yeah, also having that clavichord in the background, giving it that slightly, I don't want to use the B word, but baroque feel to it, that slightly classical feel to it, while still absolutely, completely being a contemporary pop song. That's a really amazing thing to be achieving at this kind of point. And again, we've said this a lot about songs in Revolver. This is a short song. This is not a song which spirals on and on and on. We're still well under 3 minutes at this stage, and yet all this is packed into such a seemingly simple, relatively sparsely instrumented song. It's just incredible.
I think the point to make, certainly about the instrumentation, what they do, it's another one of those examples where everything is done for the betterment of the song.
Yes,
There's no
absolutely.
there's no grandstanding about it. It's a case of what does the song need? How can we tailor the instrumentation, the performance and the production in order to meet the needs of the song? And I can't imagine another way of doing this that would have been as effective. And can you just imagine as well that um, they've they've been sort of in and out of the studio over the period of weeks recording, and you've gone and Paul's come in and said, I've got this song called Eleanor Rigby, which they then put together towards the end of April. And then when they come back into the studio in May, he said, well, I've got this song now called For No One. And you think, well, okay, all right. Where did all this come from? You just think, what an amazing run to be on. It's just quite astonishing. But also it suggests a particular direction. And yet, of course, we've also got lots of other things going on around that time. It's not that long after, I think, that we get into Good Day Sunshine. Um, and just amazing that what they're coming up with at this particular point. And then in terms of doing things for the purpose of the song, and you mentioned about the length of the song, it just ends. It's just a case of, well, how are we going to end this, guys? I don't know. How about we just stop playing quietly and put down our instruments and walk away? Yeah, what a great idea. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. That is that unresolved chord, those for that final, which is just perfectly judged. I said this song was well under 3 minutes. Of course, what I should have said is it's 1 minute 15 seconds long. It's the shortest song on Revolver, which is just astonishing when you think about it. But yeah, just that final way of closing out that. It's not even uncertainty. Like you could play that as uncertainty, but it's not uncertainty. We are confident that things are done as far as this relationship is concerned, as far as the lyric is concerned. But it's just that that final note, which doesn't allow any kind of catharsis. It doesn't really allow any kind of resolution to kind of like the emotional beats such as they are of the song. As with the song remaining a remove from the listener, those final two chords keep you at that distance. But also, yeah, it's done. We're walking away now, both metaphorically and literally. And it's I couldn't imagine this song ending any other way.
So, bear in mind we're talking about doing things for the benefit of the song. Alan Civil,
Yes,
that horn solo,
yes,
I think it's such an important outside contribution to make, and I think it says a lot when artists start going, okay, right, what this song needs is, and they're in a position to get one of the best possible people in, and it is, I mean, it is amazing what he did, and I do get the feeling though that it was quite difficult to play, that they were asking quite a lot of him in terms of not only playing the high notes but the speed of it as well. But I find him there's not a massive amount of information there about him, but he's also someone who you can start kind of tracing lineage back, in that he was as hired for an orchestra by Sir Thomas Beecham, who's quite a big figure in early 20th century conducting in the UK. Also went
yeah.
and
That's
worked
that's
in.
that's not nothing.
That's not nothing, and so you can sort of see how that connects. And I may be getting this completely wrong, but I can't imagine that the Rolling Stones, even if they wanted to pull that kind of person in, would want to pull that kind of person in. They're probably thinking, well, okay, who are the people who played with Stax? Let's get them, which might be grossly unfair, but it sort of feels that way. But I kind of like his attitude to it as well, where my friends would ask, "What have you done this week?" and I would say, "Oh, I played with Otto Klemperer and Rudolf Kemp." That didn't mean anything to them, but to say you'd played with the Beatles was amazing. The day would almost go into their diaries as being the day they'd met someone who played with the Beatles. Even now, 2 years after, while only a few people come up to me and I say, I do like your Mozart horn concerto, so many others say, see that big grey-haired old chap over there? He played with the Beatles. For me, it was just another day's work. And I think that's an interesting point because he did go on Desert Island Discs, I think in the 70s. I've not found the full track listing, and although a lot of recordings are available, his isn't available. I've only found a website that lists four of the songs that he picked. Of course, he is picking the traditional classical songs that were part of his repertoire. So I sort of suspect that it was work for him. He was called in. He was asked what he was going to play or was given something to play. He played it. Thank you very much. That'll do. And I suspect that he's of that generation that wasn't then quite so inclined to then see the beauty in it and to then adapt to that. In a way, I think a lot of classical musicians these days kind of have to.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the thing is, presumably when he did the solo, the song itself wouldn't be finished, so you don't really get a sense at that point what your final contribution is going to look like. It certainly seems likely, or at least from the reading that I've done, it seems likely that what he played was his own work. It wasn't something which was scored for him by, say, George Martin. But I also find that really interesting as well. Like, under normal circumstances, you would expect George Martin to score something, especially if it was, like the old sort of cliche is like, oh, McCartney doesn't write music. So he'd hum something and then George Martin would write it down and then it'd be given to the players and then that's what they'd play. That doesn't seem to have happened in this case. And I'd be really curious to know why. Not necessarily why, like, McCartney didn't have an idea for that break, but it's really unusual for George Martin not to step in and go, okay, well, I think this is what we need, and here, look, I've written it out for you, and blah blah blah. I mean, he's contributed so many times to Beatles songs by doing that, but in this case, it's the session musician who's come up with the line, and I find that really fascinating as well. I don't know why, but I also wonder if that's why this song also again has a slightly different kind of feel to it because it's not a George Martin score that's being played here. It is something which has been written ostensibly by the guy who's playing the horn. And that gives it a slightly different feel too. Maybe that also leans a little bit more sort of towards the classical, and not that George Martin can't do that, of course, obviously he can, but it certainly gives it again a slightly different feel. And yeah, I'd really love to know why George Martin didn't write the score for it, but I haven't been able to find any information about that at all.
Well, I've got a couple of things on that. So from Lewison's complete Beatles recording sessions, he quotes Alan Civil and says they played the existing tape to me, which was complete, according to him, and I thought it had been recorded in rather bad musical style. All right, fair enough. Paul said, we want something there. Can you play something that fits in? It was rather difficult to actually understand what they wanted, so I made something up which was middle register, a Baroque style solo. I played it several times, each take wiping out the previous attempt. So there's that where he is quoted. But then from the Beatles anthology book, we've got another conversation going on where George Martin talking to Paul McCartney is quoted saying, well, now what do you want him to play? I said something like this and sang the solo to him, and he wrote it down. Towards the end of the session, we were getting a piece down for Alan to play. George explained to me the range of the instrument. Well, it goes from here to this top E. And I said, what if we ask him to play in F? George saw the joke and joined in the conspiracy. We came to the session. Alan looked up from his bit of paper. Hey, George, I think there's a mistake here. You've got a high F written down. Then George and I said, yeah, and smiled back at him. And he knew what we were up to and played it. The great players will do it. Even though it's officially off the end of their instrument, they can do it, and they're quite into it occasionally. It's a nice little solo. So we've got two sides there. McCartney saying, I hummed it, I sang it, and George wrote it down, and we were cheeky and put a note in that technically he wouldn't be able to play. But then Alan Civil in much earlier interview, because he died in '89, saying they asked me what I would play, and so I made it up and played it. Whatever you can decide. We could be in Buckland here, or there could just be different people remembering things differently. So I think we'll file that under you believe what you want to believe, folks.
Seems fair. Seems fair. Whoever came up with it, though, it is a perfect accompaniment to this
Yeah.
song. It really, I mean, you couldn't ask for it to fit the song any better, and particularly having it come back towards the end of the song as well, which is such a lovely addition. Again, another beautiful counterpoint as the song comes to its close. It couldn't be any better.
Oh, by the way, when he saw the name of the song, he thought it was called For Number One.
Well,
That's
you know,
yeah,
that's good to know.
that's fair enough. Now, because it's the Beatles, there are lots and lots and lots and lots of covers. And because it's the Beatles, lots and lots of lots and lots of them are pretty bad. There are lots and lots and lots of slowed down kind of, oh, this is a sad song. Therefore, I need to sing it in a sad way, which misses the point. McCartney doesn't sing it in a sad way. He lets the words speak for themselves, and it makes it effective. And it's got quite a pace to it in a way that a lot of these covers don't. Um, However, I do have to point out that the Ford I like secondhandsongs.com. It's a fun website, and I realize that user generated content is problematic at the best of times, but on there the users can rate the cover versions, and so therefore you get a rank order. The 41st best cover version according to the users of secondhand songs, For No One, is by Mr. P. McCartney, which
Makes perfect
I
sense.
just love.
Sort
And
of.
it's the version that's on Give My Regards to Broad Street,
Mm.
almost inevitably. I just love that. I suspect it's probably more down to the fact that people haven't rated it, but rather than people who are, oh no, that's rubbish. Although when you listen to it, it's another one of those things. We said this about a McCartney song a few episodes ago, where the band play it a lot live, and they're all brilliant musicians, and they've been playing together for years and years and years, and they're incredibly tight, and yet it just sounds rubbish compared to the Beatles, because
Yeah, I think that was
it's
Here, There, and Everywhere we were talking about
was
with
it
that one. Yeah, I think
okay.
so.
And I think this is another case in point where they probably had loads more time in the studio, and Paul was obviously able to, yeah, say exactly how he wanted it, and in terms of re-recording it, it just sounds meh. He sings it
Yeah.
better, but it doesn't sound good, and that's a very, very odd thing. The other things that I want to mention in terms of covers rather, is two that I haven't been able to find. One of which is a Paul McCartney version of it played, and I think this is the first time he ever played it live, which is in 1995 at St James's Palace. So, which is those of you that don't know, is one of the royal residences. It's very close to Buckingham Palace. And I think it's where the Queen Mum used to live. Anyway, it was a charity performance. Paul McCartney and friends, the Brodsky Quartet were there. They played on it. Elvis Costello was also there that night. There is a bootleg album um, of it, but I hope you don't mind, listener. I didn't buy it. So, sorry to let you down. But it'd be interesting to hear what that is like. But on the other hand, yeah, not so much that I do actually want to pay for it. But interesting that he never sang it live until 1995. And in fact, actually, if you look at his all his tours, he played it a lot in 2004-5, which I think was the tour for possibly Chaos and Creation in the Backyard.
Yeah, I think that would be Chaos. Yeah, I think so.
So interesting that it's played a lot then, and then not at all after that. Very strange.
Very
Did you
strange.
have did you have any covers that you particularly liked?
Nothing that really jumped out at me. Sorry, Cilla Black fans, but I am not going to be praising her.
Mm,
There's the Emmylou Harris one, which I quite like.
I like. Yeah.
It's not spectacular, but it's pretty good. And at least it's not just doing the oh, here's the song, but it's a bit slower and also just the same. So that's good. Like it's got a proper like country edge to it, but it's not kind of over egging it. And yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what you said earlier. Like a lot of the cover versions for this are really mediocre and just miss the point. So many of them are just slowed down. But this isn't a sad song. That's not the point of For No One at all. It might be a regretful song. It might be a melancholic song, but it's not sad in that sense. And by trying to put an emphasis on that side of it, yeah, just so many of them are wide of the mark. So Emmylou Harris at least deserves some praise for not just falling into that trap. I quite like her cover version, but
Mm.
beyond that, there's not an awful lot that kind of really distinguished itself, I gotta say.
I have a bit of a soft spot for the Liza Minnelli version.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Um, a bit of a soft spot. But slightly kind of show busy, over the top, stagey, and that was fine. But it's interesting, I think MacDonald uses the word phlegmatic about it, and he's right. My God, MacDonald's right.
Had to
And that,
happen.
but I think that's a very without going for particular stereotypes, that is kind of a British thing. And there's one of my favorite novels of all time, Graham Swift's Waterland, talks about that a lot. And I think the narrator in that, the lead character in that, is phlegmatic, and he talks about phlegm and that lack of emotion, that sort of staying on a path just to stay calm while all around you is incredibly chaotic. And I think it's right. That is exactly what's going on here. The other cover that I tried to find a version of but couldn't is on the deluxe version of the Art of McCartney tribute album. Now, the Art of McCartney is available on Apple Tunes, so I did listen to pretty much the whole of that album, because I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound. And I thought it was really, really interesting when looking at it and thinking about the caliber of artist on there, that all of the songs pretty much sound like straightforward interpretations of McCartney songs. Now, I wonder if that's because it is a. I'm getting to my point, by the way. Just bear with me a sec.
Sorry, sorry.
Because it is a tribute, and therefore we don't feel as though we can put our own spin on this. But the only one that is a little bit different is Bob Dylan doing Things We Said Today. And I can't remember if we spoke about that when we did that song, but I think that's fantastic. But then you've got Brian Wilson doing Wanderlust. And it's just, oh, it just sounds like it is off Tug of War. And actually, I can't really sing it because this is late era Brian Wilson, 1999, and his voice is not great. But then when you get someone who is a really good singer like Roger Daltrey doing Helter Skelter, it's like, yeah, yeah, so what? There's nothing in there that's different. I mean, uh, fair enough. The Cure featuring James McCartney. I don't know what James McCartney was doing Hello Goodbye. Yes, it's Robert Smith singing it, and you can tell it's Robert Smith, so that gives it a little bit different. But everything else is a bit straightforward. It's like, here we are, we're singing a Beatles song, so we sing it in the Beatles way. Anyway, get to the point eventually. Right, okay, I will do. There is an extended version of this that includes some things that I would really love to listen to. For example, I would love to hear Robert Smith sing Sea Moon. I want to
Oh,
know
that
what
would be
that's
pretty
like.
good. Yeah, that would be pretty great.
Yeah, Ronnie Spector doing P.S. I Love You. I hope would be interesting. Or Darlene Love doing All My Loving. I wonder if someone thought Darlene Love, All My Loving. Hey.
Hey.
Um, Booker T. Jones doing Can't Buy Me Love. Again, that could be spectacular. But the one that I really want to hear and I cannot find a copy of, and I'm not prepared to spend £50 on buying the deluxe version of this, is Echo and the Bunnymen singer Ian McCulloch doing For No One.
That would be really interesting to hear because you would think that would be a perfect match.
And no, no, God, no, it's going
No,
to
you
be
don't think
awful.
so?
No, it's
Oh,
going to
I
be,
think that'd be.
oh,
Oh, I
no.
don't know. I don't know.
But it's the potential awfulness of it that might inspire me to spend £50.
Okay.
Should we set up a Patreon account especially for it?
I think we should. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Dear listener, if you want us to buy The Art of McCartney and listen to Ian McCulloch singing For No One, oh my God, I cannot possibly imagine.
Oh, I don't know. I
Oh
think that might be. I think
no.
that might be really, really interesting. I can't remember. Do you like Echo and the Bunnymen?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yes. They're one of those bands that inspire a huge amount of loyalty. People go, oh yeah, the album's fantastic. Oh yeah, actually, listen to it. Some of the singles are quite good. Yeah, some of the albums less so. And I did see Ian McCulloch in his later band, Electrofiction, before then they went back to being an Echo and the Bunnymen in 95, 96 at the Plaza in Glasgow, which was a really odd venue. I don't know if it's still there,
No, it's not there anymore.
but it was not that far from the flat I was living in. So it's a bit weird. I'm just going to walk down and go see Ian McCulloch in a band. And it was, yeah, no, that was not great. Um, yeah, no, I just can't imagine that. I think there's a reason why I cannot find it on YouTube or on streaming services. I think there's a reason. Well, that said, I think there's a reason why it was put on the extras, but then some of those other ones that I really want to hear are put on the extras as well, rather than on the main album. But
Yeah,
yeah.
there probably is a good reason for that.
Yeah, along with Alice Cooper doing Smile Away. Yeah, anyway, no.
Yeah, that. Mm,
No, 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 no.
okay, good. Just for your information, the plaza was demolished in 2006.
Okay, there you go. I wonder what monstrosity is there. It wasn't that good a music venue. In fairness, it was a bit of a
No, it was
weird
just
venue,
old. It had been there since the
in a weird
20s.
place.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway,
On that bombshell.
yes. Score, please.
Oh,
Unless you get something else you want to add.
oh God, no, no, I'm hungry. I want to go get some lunch.
Okay.
Let's see. I will give this one what did I give here, there, and everywhere?
Here, there, and everywhere you gave a 7 to.
7. Then I'm going to
Yes.
give this an 8.
Okay, that seems fair enough. I'm gonna go higher, but I'm also gonna go slightly higher. So I'm gonna give it 8.5, I think. I haven't referred to this for a while, but I have my list of all Beatles songs ranked in order, which I did. I don't know, about, I don't know, 9 months ago, a year ago, or something like that. For No One currently sits at number 33. Um,
Is
in
this
my
your ranking?
Yeah, this is my ranking.
Oh,
I have a
where can I see this?
it's on Spotify. I have a Spotify playlist called "It's All Too Much," and it's every Beatles song ranked in order, starting at number one and going all the way down to 215.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I have a spreadsheet, so I can probably just send you a link for it as well if you really want to see it.
I mean, potentially, yeah. I mean, that could be pretty interesting, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm now sort of quickly Googling some other Beatles lists. There's a Guardian one, but it's only the top 20. Rolling Stones. Oh no, no! Why did I click on that? It's a terrible website. So many pop-ups and adverts. No,
Oh,
I don't
you've
want
got
to know.
nobody but yourself to blame.
Yeah, no, move on, move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, go to the end the show, JG, end the show.
I think I will. All right. Well, you can really get a hold of us. You can contact us by email. We are Stuffology at gmail.com. We are Stuffology on Instagram, and you can find my blog at www.jgmcquarrie.scot. Please like, rate, and review us on whatever podcatcher you are using so that more people can find the show. Next episode, we will carry on through side 2, as is our wont, and we will be talking about Dr. Robert. And as always, we hope you're going to join us for it. But until then, keep listening.